Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina. I'm the host here. Have you ever wanted to be on a knitting retreat, experience knitting retreat for yourself? Because this is what my guest is organizing. Christine Walker, PeaceTree Fiber Adventures company.
Yes.
Welcome to Fiberchats.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm actually super excited to talk to you because it's my dream for this year to participate in some knitting retreats. And I'm really curious how you started with this. Tell me a little bit about the idea for this company. How did it come?
Sure. So this company did exist before I owned it. So I bought an established knitting retreat business, and it had been operating as knitting and yoga adventures for about 16 or 17 years before I bought it. The previous owner wanted to focus on, she's a potter, so she wanted to focus on, ceramic arts. So I took it over, and that was like 5 minutes before COVID happened. So that was not great. But I persevered. I kept it afloat during COVID using, virtual classes and that sort of thing. And then we were able to start actually having retreats in, I guess it was 2021, I think. So that's how I got into it. I had always wanted to work in the fiber industry, or, since I started knitting, I had, how can I be a part of this community? And, I'm not going to be a designer. I'm not going to be a dyer, any of those things. So when this opportunity came up, this was right in my wheelhouse, to host people and take care of people and plan events and that sort of thing. So it fit perfectly. It was perfect timing.
Well, tell me, how did you start to knit?
How did I start to knit? So it was about 20 years ago. I was about 34 years old, and I was pregnant with my third child. And my grandmother was a really all the crafts. So she did knit, she crocheted, she did crewel, she did embroidery, everything. So I thought to myself back then, I should learn because she's not going to be around forever. So she taught me how to knit when I was about 34. She thought I was terrible at it to start, which may or may not have been true, but I kept at it and I dabbled in it for a few years and knit a bunch of scarves and things like that. And then I think it was 2016. So a lot of years had gone by. 2016, I found the knitting retreat. So that's how I found the whole thing. I went to one.
Well,
And
tell me about it.
yeah.
What was it and what was your experience at the knitting retreat?
Oh my gosh, it was awesome. And it was the business that I ended up buying that I went to. And I felt like, so I went to the retreat, and it was knitting and yoga, and I called my friend Anne. And if you've been on any of my retreats, Anne. So I called my friend Anne. I said, let's go on this retreat. It's in Vermont. I love Vermont. I love knitting. I love yoga. Let's do it. So we went, and I mean, truly, I never wanted to leave. I mean, I was like, I live here now in Vermont, and just this sense of the community. And I made friends in 2016 that I still have, and they come to the retreat still, and we're friends outside of the retreats. And I loved it. I learned so much. And I think I really started to become a good knitter when I started going to retreats. I got so much braver. I learned so many things. I was so inspired by all the other people that were there. It's amazing. Like I could go on a retreat every weekend of my life.
Well, when you think about retreat, does that have to involve some type of learning? Is it more just a hangout and a little yoga here and there, or is learning a big part of that experience for you?
Yeah, I would say the retreats that I have gone to before I ran the business, and then the retreats that I have now, learning is a big part of it for the most part. Now, hanging out is also a big part of it, and yoga's kind of on the side of it, but learning is definitely a central part of it. I bring in, instructors and designers all the time to teach various techniques. That being said, many of the people who attend the retreats are better knitters than anyone's ever going to be. Like, they're wonderful knitters. But they are there more so for the community, to be inspired. Everyone always learns something, whether it's just a little trick with the yarn or anything. So it's always learning, and it kind of exploring the area where we're in too, but very much community.
Well, one of my guests of my channel was Belinda from Knitting Hotel in England.
Yes.
And she shared some of the, I mean, she loves that business and she's very excited about every time she was organizing it. But she also told me some horror stories of like what was happening. Were you scared of going into this business, thinking of all the people that are dissatisfied, or the boarding is not to their liking, or something's happened?
Right.
Were you scared of going into this business?
Was I scared? I don't think so. And here's why. My entire career, which is a long time at this point, I started out, I was a hairstylist when I was 19 years old. And then I worked at a medical office. And then I ran an orthodontic practice. And now the job that I have now is in software, and I manage a team of support people. So my whole business has been about taking care of people my whole career. So I am used to and have to deal with all the time,
right,
people who may be unhappy or dissatisfied or whatever the case. So that's why I kind of feel like this was the perfect thing for me, because I do that all the time, every day. So that's fine for me. So no, I don't think it scared me. It does, to be honest, break my heart when someone may not be thrilled with something, because obviously I work so hard for that not to happen, but things happen,
yeah. Let's talk about that, like prevention of disasters, right? So
yes.
what goes into the preparation for a successful retreat?
Yeah, so I am very organized and I'm very buttoned up, to use that phrase. So I have, spreadsheets, and I have, everything recorded as far as, the people who are attending, their food allergies. That's huge. Dietary restrictions, stuff like that, working with the event for all to accommodate all of that stuff. I have all of the, gifts that I give organized. I pack it all in specific ways. I have every adapter cord that you could need for, a piece of equipment. There's a saying that I definitely describes me, which is it worth doing if you don't overdo it? So, so I have, when I travel, I'll have our passports, copies of our passports. I've emailed copies of our, everything. So the bottom line is I try to think of every last thing, and so it's a lot of preparation. It's a lot of backtracking a little bit, because, people don't get the email. It ends up in their junk, or, they just never saw it. And oh, I don't know what I chose for my meals. So I make sure that I have all of that information with me, so no one has to worry about it. I don't want them to have to worry about it, because an event might make me have the people pick their meals, but of course they don't think about that after they've chosen them. So I don't want anyone to think about any of that. I don't want anybody to have to make decisions while they're there. I just want them to have a lovely time.
Well, when you think about the first retreat that you personally organized and the last one you had recently, how different it is for you? Like, do you feel much more confident? Do you feel like it's becoming easier, or there's always something new that you're learning along the way?
Yeah, I think that I learn something every time, and it's little things. But the first retreat that I was able to have was in Massachusetts, and it was at a hotel that had been closed for the entire of COVID. So I had not even seen it before we went. Now it was fine and it was good, but there was definitely like COVID related effects. You know what I mean? Like, that were just still a little bit weird. But I think people were so happy to be out of their houses that it was fine. I learned something every time. Like one time I had an instructor check in and they did not have that person's name attached to the room. They had my name, so little things like that I always try to remember as time goes on, because you don't know what you don't know. So, and there's also people that have come to so many retreats that I already know what their food allergies or restrictions are, and I can kind of know that that's coming ahead of time and that sort of thing. That is probably the hardest thing to plan around. I mean, it's fine. It works out. It's just, you need to make, because I'm so sensitive to things like that. And I want everyone to be good and nobody to be ill. And, it's just, you're working with feeding a lot of people. So, I've learned a lot about different venues, and I've learned a lot about different vendors that I've worked with, some who are more buttoned up and some who are less buttoned up. But this is business. This is how the world works, So it's fine. I think every single time gets better and easier.
Have you ever regretted getting into this business?
I have not. I have not regretted it. I have thought a couple times to myself, this is crazy, but I truly love it. I really and truly love it. And am I going to make $1 million? No, that's fine. But I love it. My favorite part about it is the people that I meet. Hands down, 1,000,000%. I meet the best people with the best stories and the best lives. And I don't even mean that from they're all, millionaire, rich, you know what I mean? Like it's people, just regular people with a story to tell. And it's amazing. It's amazing the amount of knowledge and wisdom that I've been exposed to. And I'm so grateful for that. I love it. I truly love it.
So when you think about knitting, lots of times people think it's all women.
Yes.
And I know that because a friend of mine and I have a Facebook group, Knitters Gonna Knit, and it's basically affiliated with his name. He's a designer. So the group says in the header that it's affiliated with David Van de Kamp. And yet every once in a while, we'll get somebody who will post something that goes something like ladies.
Right. Yes.
And we always talk about it that, yes, the male population in knitting and in fiber arts may be a minority, but they're a very important minority. Are all the retreats geared towards women? Do guys ever come to knitting retreats?
I have had guys come. Yes. And I love it when the guys are there. Mostly the retreat that I've had in Maine, for whatever reason, has had men attend. I had one male instructor before. I have another one in April in Utah. So I love it. I think it's great. I mean, certainly all are welcome. I feel that the times that I've had men at the retreats, the women, I don't want to really like do men and women kind of thing, but the people, everyone's just super welcoming, and we're all knitters. So everyone, no one's like, oh, I didn't want a man here, that type of thing. So no, I love it. I think it's great. And I've had a couple guys that have come to the main retreat, and man, they were good knitters. So, it's great. It's great to see. I wish there was more of that.
Right. Let's talk about the upcoming retreats. What is on your calendar?
Yeah. So in April 11th, to be exact, is Knit North Carolina. And with that retreat, I've partnered with Angie Reach, who's the traveling yarn yogi, and we are doing the retreat together. So she's bringing Pearl the yarn bus to North Carolina. And that retreat, and Kimberly McElinden is the instructor. And that retreat is more of a, we're staying at Big Lynn Lodge. It's kind of more rustic. It's, a beautiful view of the mountains, more like, little cabins around, but air conditioning and all the comforts of home. And that's going to be amazing. That's going to be in North Carolina. We have about 4 or 5 spots left for North Carolina. That's my expansion south. And then my expansion west is Knit Utah, and that's in May 30th. That's May 30th to June 2nd. That's in Park City, Utah. Kyle Kunicki is the instructor, and that's going to be amazing. There are a decent amount of spots left for Utah. Obviously I'm less known out in the West because all of my retreats have been in Northeast, really, basically. So I'm super excited to go to Utah. I'm also working with Wasatch and Wool, which is the local yarn store in Park City. So we'll be going there and having a private, wine and cheese shopping night at her store. So that'll be great.
That sounds super fun.
I know, right? That's going to be amazing. And the hotel we're staying at is actually really cool. It's like a mid-century modern look to it, and the conference room has all windows, and it's the mountains are all right there, so I mean that's pretty sweet. And then in September is when we go to Greece, so partnering with Shayna Billow for that. So Shayna and I are friends. We've met through knitting,
right?
And she's taught at my retreats a couple times, and she's the best, and we love Shayna. So we decided to partner together to go to Greece, and that is going to be amazing because yes, there's going to be knitting, and Shayna is doing some projects that correspond to the activities that we're doing in Greece. So we're going to do 4 days in Athens, 3 days in Sunia, which is on the water. And we're doing a weaving experience. We're doing a jewelry experience. We're doing a pottery experience. We're doing a mosaic experience. We're doing a food tour. We're, of course, seeing the sites. And so Shayna is doing little projects that correspond to the things that we've seen and learned about. So that is going to be unbelievable. And the bonus part of that is that one of my very good friends, her name is Krista, she is coming along on the trip, and she goes to Greece all the time. She loves Greece. She says that's where she feels most at home. She's done all sorts of things there, working with refugees and different volunteer things like that. And she adores Greece, and she's coming along with us. So she knows Greece like the back of her hand. She said everything we're doing is like amazing. She's tried out the things that we're doing there. So that's going to be a trip of a lifetime. Then in November is Vermont again, and that's Norwich, Vermont. It's at the Norwich Inn, which is a lovely old, inn, beautiful library, fireplaces, the whole thing. And then they've built a couple newer buildings, which I stayed in when we just went there in February, which was great. Had a fireplace in my room, the whole thing, and wonderful light there. It's like, with knitters, we're all about the light.
Right.
How's the light? So great light there. So that retreat in November in Vermont is always sold out. It's not sold out yet, but it 100% will be. It always is. So that's a wonderful retreat. And Julie Leboudier is coming to teach for that, and she is a Canadian designer. So she's coming for that. So that's going to be amazing as well. Twin Stitches Design is her handle.
Right. What is the dream destination for you that you haven't done yet, but like it's on the back of your mind to get at some point?
Yeah, the dream destination. I'm going to say, because I think this is true, Scotland. So
into that for sure.
Yes, I think Scotland/Ireland, but more Scotland. I would love to go to Shetland, Fair Isle, those, which are kind of like the for for knitters. I would love that, but I would love to go to Scotland. I know the yarn festival there, that's typically in March.
Yeah, they have March and September.
So March, my birthday's in March, so I feel like that would work out. Not this March, but
sounds
that
like
I would love to go.
Meant to be, yeah.
Yeah. So I would love to go there. And I do have, this is not really totally announced yet. It's just a little sneak peek yet, but we are doing Italy in May of 2025. So that's going to be also amazing. Taking over an entire kind of like a boutique hotel with a private studio that we'll have access to the whole time. It's in Le Marche, Italy. And that's going to be very, very amazing as well. Just the view from the hotel. Amazing.
Let's talk about marketing part, because it's one thing to deal with all the customer service, but it's completely different area to deal with marketing. How did you learn that, and how do you approach that?
Yeah. I probably don't approach it as effectively as I could, to be honest with you. I'm always I have been my whole life like I'm going to call it, which is what I call myself, a gadget girl. So I always like, what's the new thing? I want to have that thing. What's the new social media platform? What's the new, cool hip thing to know about? And I do like to expose myself to those things. So I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, all of those things. So I do learn a lot from social media. I don't think I've hit that, sweet spot, if you will, about when to post, how often to post, what to post about, those sorts of things. So I basically learn as I go. I think my strongest area of marketing, honestly, is word of mouth. So that's great, because I definitely want that to continue. And I send out newsletters, I post on social media, I do videos, that sort of thing. But I definitely feel like I could be stronger in that area.
How far in advance do you start selling the retreat?
Pretty far in advance, actually. For the retreats that I have in November, I start at January 1st of that same year. All of the other retreats, depending on when I get them booked and that sort of thing, I'll either do it as soon as possible, or I'll, wait a couple months if there's other things going on. Like, I'm not really registering for Italy yet, because I'm, working on Greece, and my focus is more on Greece. People can register for Italy if they want. But I'm, just kind of focusing on this year so far. Definitely months in advance, so people can plan for that.
Let's talk about yoga part of it, because to me, as much as I hear and appreciate the helpful side of yoga, part of me, when I think about yoga, think about those pretzeled Indian men. Terrified. Why did you decide to incorporate yoga with knitting?
Yeah. So when I bought the business, yoga was already a part of it. So it made sense to just continue that. And what's great about all of the retreats and all the parts of the retreats is you can do as much or as little as you want. So if you want to do yoga, great. If you don't, that's fine. And when I meet with the yoga instructors, I always, let them know, like, this is not a group of people that are pretzels. Maybe there's a pretzel in there, but most likely not. So, and mostly people are older. I mean, there's considerations for that, So I've been lucky that all of the yoga instructors that I've worked with have been very accommodating, make all of the modifications that they need to. And what's actually very nice about it is, because yoga is always early in the morning. So that's always a stretch, I mean, it's like 7:15 in the morning. So it's more of like a nice way to start off your day versus let's learn to be contortionists. So it's just a nice chill. And in North Carolina, we're actually doing Angie, who's the traveling yarn yogi. She teaches yoga. So we're actually going to do chair yoga. So we're going to do it throughout the day. So that'll be nice, because obviously our neck and shoulders, and as knitters, our neck, shoulders, and hands and wrists take a beating. So we'll be able to work on that throughout the day.
Right. From the instructors that you've had on your knitting retreats, you mentioned that like you became a better knitter since you started going to retreats. What's your most memorable class?
Ooh. That's a good one. My most memorable class. Oh, I know. So this was in the beginning. This was interesting. So Beth Brown Reinzel was the instructor. This is a retreat that I attended, not, when I was throwing it. And she teaches all sorts of color work and, Gansey things and all that sort of stuff. So one of the classes with her was cast-ons and all the different cast-ons. And I had only really ever done backwards loop and long tail cast-on. That's all I knew. That's all I knew how to do. So when we started doing all these different cast-ons, and they were like 3-color cast-ons, like all the crazy cast-ons, I was like, I can cast on like it's my job. Like I am so good at casting on. Like I could do all of them in the first try, like all of them. So that was actually kind of a boost, because I didn't know to be afraid of it. Right. And I just jumped in and I'm super good at casting on. So I loved that. So that was very memorable, to be honest. I mean, it's such a little thing, but it is one of those things where it just sits with you and gives you some confidence. So, I mean, we've had so many amazing classes.
I think it's very important, like what you touched on, that like if you don't know that it's something you should be afraid of, you might be really good at it.
Right.
Just give it a try. And I noticed that like I recently took a class on sticking and I was always like, well, one day I'm going to learn how to stick. Like who knew it was piece of nothing? It was so easy to stick, So it's like that when you in the group setting and you don't really, you go there for the company, you go there for the place, not necessarily to learn the exact technique, right? And you learn it just because it's being taught there, and suddenly you realize, oh, it was easy, like it was totally manageable.
I've been scared of this forever, and I feel that way about sticking myself. Another thing that I did, I had a class last year that was making a Mobius cowl, and I realized, well, I knew this already, but when I was not that far into knitting, and I knit 2 Mobius cowls, like with the Mobius cast on and everything, like no problem, because I did not know to be afraid of it.
Right.
I mean, Mobius, people get like, I mean, the cast on is pretty crazy, but I just did it. I followed the directions and did it. And I had no idea that was a scary thing. Yeah. And then when we learned it for real, I was like, oh, cool. I did this, it was great.
I find it a lot, like when people see something, I would need like Shetland lace and they were like, oh, I don't know how you do it. And I always joke that it's all one stitch at the time, but that's the reality of it. It's like, it is that complicated.
Exactly. I say that all the time. There's 2 stitches, the knitting and purling, that's it. And they're really the same thing. So yes, it's just what you do with them.
How is it different for you, like the experience of being a guest at the retreat and being a host of the retreat?
So being a guest is definitely more relaxing than being a host. I still, as the host, I still have so much fun. It's just a little bit more, on. You're a little bit, you're on all the time. That's fine. I'm fine with that. Being a guest is definitely more relaxing, more exciting in a way to be a guest, just in terms of, the new place, the new experience, the new, techniques you're learning. I, at this point, have been to many of the venues several times, which is fine. I love it. It doesn't matter. I'll go anywhere to knit. So it's all good. But being the host is definitely just a little bit more, we're out of wine, this light's not working, this cable's not working. So it's dealing with those kind of things, which is just more of a challenge, but also part of the experience.
Well, when I started my channel, I started it with some people that I already had connection with over Instagram. Like they were my first guests, were my friends basically from Instagram. And then I stepped into the unknown and I started cold calling people and inviting them to my channel. When you started your retreat business, how did you secure those instructors? Was that also like through friends and through word of mouth, or was there some cold calling for the dream instructor?
Yeah, in the beginning, there was a little bit of where the previous owner of the business, Lisa, would put forth an introduction. So she would introduce me to a few different people, which was great. So that was fine. But then I did start just reaching out to people, and I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen? I reach out, they say yes or they say no. It's great. So I really don't have an issue with that at all, but I've definitely done cold calling. I've definitely had people not respond. I've definitely had people that are great, and they're like, I can't do it that time, but please keep me in mind, and that sort of thing. And what was the coolest, best thing that a designer said to me when I cold called them, basically, it was Zandy Peters, and I called him, and he said, "Oh yeah, I've heard I should work for you." And I was like, "Oh, that's amazing." So he came to Maine last year, and it was wonderful. But to hear that people had said to him, "Oh, you should work for PeaceTree," that was pretty cool.
Right. Is there, like, when you go into the new business, you have some picture that you imagine how it's gonna be? Like, you think you're gonna know like the difficulties and the best things about it. Did anything surprise you into actually being in this business?
Did anything surprise me? I think, well, unfortunately, the thing that surprised me the most was COVID, because when I bought the business, it was like, oh, all I have to do is become the helm, and it's turnkey. I don't need to do anything. It's already planned. Well, no, it wasn't. So that surprised me, because that was something I never expected. Something obviously nobody did. I never thought I would be thrown into a sink or swim situation regarding the business, and how do I save this, and how do I not lose it all, even though it just started. So that really surprised me, but I did it, which was very affirming to me, and definitely made me feel as though I had made the right decision to do this, because as we've already discussed, I work full-time too. So it's a bit of a, I'm busy. Let's just say that. I'm very busy. So to be thrown into that unknown was very difficult and very surprising, but I did it. It was great. And now, do things surprise me? I'm going to say maybe. Mostly no. Mostly no. I hope it stays that way. Mostly no.
What's your favorite thing about the first day, like when everybody arrives?
My favorite thing is meeting the people face to face. I have typically corresponded with people a lot. I also, this is funny. You're going to think this is funny. You know how when people email you and there's like a picture that's this big, maybe, with their email? So this is the weirdest thing. I am what is called a super recognizer, which means, I have excellent facial recognition. So I'm a super recognizer. So I can know from that little picture on the email who the person is when I meet them. So people are always surprised that I know them by name right away, which is great. And it also helps me to remember people from time to time. So I think that's really valuable with the business, because I do always love when I have repeat people and when I have new people and everything. So the first day is great, just getting everyone settled, because there's, especially if they've never been before, it's a little like, where do I go? What am I doing? Do I have an assigned seat? So I just really like to make that first time just so welcoming. And I make a point to talk to everyone. I make a point to sit with someone different for all the meals. I make sure I'm, kind of rotating around. So I guess that's the most important thing on the first day. The thing I love the most is meeting everybody finally. And the second thing is just getting everyone settled in to be like, okay, we're now relaxing. We're past the what do I do here part, and we're just good to go for the weekend.
If instead of having knitting retreats in different places, you had to become the knitting hotel like Belinda has, is there a location that you would always like happily to go back to?
Oh my gosh. I would, first of all, I would love to do something like that. Second of all, um, I love Vermont. I was born in Massachusetts. I live in New York now, but I was born in Massachusetts. I love that area of the country. I love Vermont. There's just something about Vermont. And so I would definitely do that. But every time I go somewhere new, I'm like, oh, this is the best place. So, but Vermont just really fits the feeling very, very well. So if I had a permanent place that wasn't where I live now, which is Buffalo, New York, I would love Vermont.
When you think about Greece, is there any specific meal that you are dying to try?
Oh, I am. And I know something specifically. So my friend Krista, who's going on the trip, what she eats, and she said she ate so much of last time, it's like feta and phyllo dough with baked, and then with honey on top of it and black sesame seeds, and then you like bust into that with some bread.
That
That's
sounds delicious.
so good. Yes, and we're all telling ourselves that it's the Mediterranean diet, so it's fine. It's all good. It's healthy.
I actually saw a documentary where they were baking the whole goat with like potatoes and lemons and rosemary, and that looked like an experience I would love to try one day. So I'm sure
Yeah.
we're gonna have some really good food there. It's
Oh my gosh. And I guess there's these little donuts, and I love a donut. So there's these these little donuts that are delicious, and the hotel that we're staying at in Athens apparently is on like the street, like the street for all the things. So, Krista said, you walk out the door and you want souvlaki, there you go. You want the donuts, there you go. Everything's right outside the door. So there's going to be plenty of eating happening.
Is it hard for
Plenty.
you, like when you come from a retreat and you're still mentally sort of with those people and in that place, is it hard to concentrate on the next thing? Is there like a withdrawal feeling?
Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't think so. I guess I'm just used to moving to the next thing. Especially if all the retreats go well, there's never a thing that hasn't gone well. There was one instance last year, which was outside of my control, which a hotel that we went to told me a week before that the whole lobby was under renovation. And they weren't kidding. I mean, it was ripped apart. And so people were not thrilled about that, and neither was I. So that did stay with me a little bit longer, if you will, because it was upsetting and outside of my control. So that stuck with me a little bit more, but mostly everything's, smooth and great. And it's easy to focus on the next thing. Also, the retreats are not that close together. So I can, the closest is middle of April, then the end of May. So there's still plenty of time to kind of decompress from one, move energies to the next.
Well, you mentioned about how busy you are with your regular job and that this is something you do outside of your regular job. Is there a dream or ambition to one day become just the retreat owner?
Yes, there definitely is. I would love to, my dream would be to have a physical location here where I live that is a store, but also has classes. And then it's like the home base for the retreat business. So I would love that. I would love to have that. I even know where I would want to have that where I live. And then I would love to do, say, if I could do, say 8 or 9 retreats a year in various, places and locations, that would be the ultimate goal. That would be amazing. This year I have 5.
Right. How can my viewers find more information about all of the upcoming retreats and find you and like ask questions about it?
Yeah, anyone can feel free to email me at PeaceTree Fiber Adventures at gmail.com, and my website, which is PeaceTreeFiberAdventures.com. And I'm on Instagram as PeaceTree Fiber Adventures. As you can tell, a theme. Yeah, so any of that has all the information that you would need. Anyone can feel free to reach out to me through Instagram. That's all fine. In case you're wondering what PeaceTree is about, I always have had I've been drawn to a peace symbol and a tree of life. So if you put the two together, the tree growing out of the peace symbol, which, believe me, I did not invent. I mean, that's already a thing. It makes me feel like you can grow from a place of peace. So that's something I'm always striving for. Not there, but that's what I'm striving for. So that's where the name came from.
That's beautiful. Well, I'm gonna put all the information in the description of this video so you guys can check out some of the retreats and perhaps go to one or all of them, all 5 of them. There are some spots still available for the April, and there's a few spots available for that Greek retreat, right?
Yep. Yes.
So there's your chance, and I'm hoping I'm going to participate in one of your retreats one day soon.
We would love to have you.
I would love to go to Greece with Shayna. Shayna is honestly, like, I've been telling it to everybody who is willing to listen.
Yeah.
One of the most gifted knitting instructors.
Yes.
She has the knack of explaining some like most difficult techniques in the simplest terms with the visual aids. She can draw any stitch. She can draw how to do duplicate stitch in 20 seconds with just some skills. Just brilliant knitting.
Agreed.
So she's gonna be.
She's wonderful.
It's gonna be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, she's wonderful, and every time she has taught with me, everyone just raves about her, not to mention that she's like the nicest person and so friendly. And so when she teaches, she's so caring and so kind, because obviously some people may get it more or struggle more or whatever. And she's so patient and wonderful. I could not be happier that we partnered together for the Greek trip. Could not be happier.
And I just took a class on an intarsia class, which is like another technique that terrifies majority of knitters. And I took a class at Vogue Knitting Live with Shayna. And let me tell you, there were like 30 people in that class. Not a single one didn't get it. Like we all watched with intarsia at the end of that class,
That's amazing. And I'm not surprised because Shayna is that good. She's wonderful.
Well, I'm so glad I got to chat with you, and I do hope I can make it to one of your retreats. It sounds wonderful.
I hope so too.
Thanks so much, Christina. Thank you for being a guest of my channel today.
Thank you.